Hello to everyone. Thanks us for joining us today. Hopefully you enjoy the webinar. And today we're going to talk about a bit about BIM Collaborate Pro, how that can be integrated as a common data environment. Just check if everything is going all right. Yeah, it looks like good. So just to give you a bit of introduction about myself, my name is David Amaya-Gonzales. I'm a BIM consultant for Symmetry, also previously for Microdesk. I have over 10 years experience in the AEC industry. I'm really a technology enthusiast person, so anything with technology, I will be looking into it. Hopefully also technology goes well today and we don't have any issue with any connections. Also, as I said there, I like to prefer solve problem rather than creating if I can. I know a bit about design automation, CD implementation, BIM as management, standards, content creation, and extend reality. For today's agenda, as we say in the title before, we're going to talk about CD implementation for BIM 360. These are the topics that we're going to talk today. For the first one, BIM 360 and Unify platform, we will mention on a high level a couple of items, but what we really encourage to you is to, if I go to my next slide, is if you haven't checked out our previous webinar, when we really talk into detail about more concepts regarding how the platform works, the basics tools that you will need to understand to really implement your project. So you got the QR code there. I will also going to, if I can, just give me a second. Yeah, so you got the QR code there. You'll be able to visualize it if you like. So yeah, if we go a bit into detail for today's agenda, also I just forgot to mention, I will be checking the questions during the webinar, but it's likely that we'll be answering at the end of the webinar. So yeah, feel free to reach out on the question box and we will be happy to answer your questions at the end. So yeah, to explain a bit about the platform, BIM 360 and Unify platform. So at the moment, Autodesk is using two different platforms. So we go BIM 360 and the new one, which is the Unify platform. They're quite similar, but they work in different ways, if you know what I mean. So in terms of the modules, what they used to know as a BIM docs, now for the Unify platform, now it's known as Autodesk Docs, BIM Coordinate. Now we know as Autodesk BIM Collaborate, BIM 360 Design, and Collaborate Pro. Now we know as Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro. BIM 360 Build is now Autodesk Build. And now also Autodesk is introducing Autodesk Takeoff. To talk about a bit more into detail, to explain you a bit about the Unify platform is, so we go Autodesk Docs. That's simply when you're gonna host all your models, documentations, and your CDE, and that will be included in any of the other modules. So for example, for Autodesk BIM Collaborate, you will also have Autodesk Docs. So yeah, Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro, which is the model that we're talking about, with the Unified platform now also includes Autodesk BIM Collaborate. So before, if you have as part of your licensing design coordination, you will need to also get model coordination. Now, if you get Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro in the Unified platform, you also get Autodesk BIM Collaborate with model coordination. So in design collaboration, we are able to use the BIM 360 design module, so we'll be able to work collaborative with another discipline in our Revit models. And for model coordination, things like class detection in the cloud, glue, markups, etc. So for today's topic, CDE, no? Single source of truth. Why? This is the main question for today. So I try to put this this image, and I hope that you've been kind of on the same situation as me, no? Even more in your uni days, or at least myself when I was back in college. I remember when I need to work on an essay or any type of work that I had to submit. I remember to start typing the name. I used to call it something like final essay version 1, right? And then you start call it final essay copy and version 2. and that's what kind of the appreciation here. I'm sure that everyone's been there, and this is one of the main reasons why we want to work in a collaborative environment and would have just one single source of truth. We, with a CDE, with a digital CDE in this case, we'll be able to avoid this type of duplication of content. We will sharing everything in a centralized data assets, and we will be avoiding sending things by email, for example. So this is how a managed, no, I don't want to call it CD, and a managed flow of information looks like. So everyone sending information in a no organized way, with not really a really way to audit who sent that document and when and what was the reason. And in a nutshell, this is kind of the simple reason why we want to create a CD, right? To make sure that everything sits in one place, when we know who sent it, when it was sent, when we are able to check the versioning, compare between previous versions, and also, for example, give certain permission to certain folders to any of our stakeholders for our projects. So in order for a CDE to work in an organized way, I'm gonna show a few key features. There probably would be more, but these are the ones that I like to work with when I'm working within a CDE within my clients and my colleagues. So the first one we're talking about today is folder structure. Second is actions and permissions. Third is audit. The next one is container unique ID and version control. Approval stage and collaboration, and sharing information. I think with this case 6 key feature, you will be able, you will have a really good starting point to work in your CDE and make sure that that works properly. And today we're going to show you how we can implement all these key factors in the BIM 360 platform. So the first one, if we talk about a bit about folder structure and states, we are talking today from the UK. So here in the UK, we base our CDE information flow on the ISO 19650 series, and that those standards tell us about 4 different, we want to call it folders, which is one is work in progress, share, publish, and archive. I'm pretty sure you already have heard of those if you are familiar with this type of workflow. So to put it more in a graphical way, I took an example from my colleague Martin, and he liked to explain this to make those folder as a file cabinet, as a physical file cabinet, right? And how the difference between one another. So for example, our work in progress file cabinet, it will be a cabinet that everyone in that specific team will be access to it. So you as a part of that team, you will have a key that you will be able to open that file cabinet, but in another side, you won't be able to open the work in progress file cabinet from other discipline, for example. To show this how this looks in the BIM 360, in this case in the Unify platform, this is a screenshot, and also we're gonna do a bit of live demo here. So this is how it looks, the docs module in our Unify platform, and this is the typical standard setup for our folder naming convention. So we go work in progress, share, publish, archive. For example, if we go to work in progress and we go to information manager, we already can realize that we got a document there. We will come back to this document later. I just want to show you now the structure of our folder structure in a nutshell. So as you can see, we have all the disciplines that work in this project. In this case, we got the architect, the information manager, the mechanical, and the structural team. Okay. Let's come back to our schedule. And now we want to talk a bit about access and permissions. So again, a really important topic for our CDE. This is because we need to make sure that our CDE is secure, and we need to make sure that we give the right permissions to the right people for all the folders in our data environment. So again, I'm gonna just jumping into the live demo. As you can see here, I am on my docs module stills. Oops, one second. Yeah, I am my docs module, and here on the member section, that works. One second. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, I already add a couple of team members for this project. So we need to, in order to add a member, it's just easier to add the email address and fill up a couple of information, which will be the company they're coming from, the role for this project, the access level, so if it's a project member or as a project admin. Yeah, and you can also add the phone, status. Well, this was the information we was added on. You just go into one example. If I click, for example, in Darren, we can see here that we'll be able also to change it. So at the moment he's training architecture. So that's the, in this demo, the architecture discipline. This role is architect. I could change to a project administration, which I won't do in this case. And also in terms of accessibility, really important what you're gonna do here. So at the moment you can switch off on which module Darren will be able to use in our CDE. So at the moment he has switched on for docs, insight, design collaboration, and model coordination. I want to just stay 2 seconds on this one, because even if I switch on docs for Darren, that doesn't mean that Darren will be able to use it in our project. So in order to explain that, I'm gonna jump into the next slide. I want to explain the difference between the previous platform, which is BIM 360, and the platform we're talking about today, which is the Unify platform. So for the BIM 360 previously, if you work in a project, you can see all the modules here: docs, design, coordinate, and build. Most of them are hub assigned. Only in this case, design collaboration will be bring you on. What that means? That means that when you, if you work in a project and you're being assigned to a project, the person who owns the hub, that project, will need to give you the license for all these modules. So we need to give the license for docs, for coordinate, for build, etc. That changed slightly for the Unify platform. So for the Unify platform, as you can see, all the modules are bring you on. So what that means? Well, it's the completely opposite situation here, right? So essentially, if you are assigned to a project into the Unified platform, you will need to bring your license with you. So if I come back, let's go back to my live demo again. So here, what basically is happening, I'm telling Darren that he will be able to access docs, design collaboration, and model coordination. But if he doesn't bring those licenses with him, he won't be able to see the modules on the top left hand side here. So that's a big thing. So in order to explain this, because if I go back to my slide again, I just go to previous one. Second. Because this is one of the main questions I get all the time when someone is going to start a project and they know about both platforms. They ask me, David, which platform should I use, no, for my project? And that will be based on which type of stakeholder you are. If you are an owner, for example, I would recommend you to use the Unify platform. Why is that? Because imagine you working on a project that is gonna be you're gonna need to add around 50 people, 50 users. So you will need, if you work in BIM 360 platform, you will need to have 50 doc licenses. If you're working in the Unify platform, everyone will need to bring their own licenses and you won't have to pay for that. That's one of the key as an owner to work in the Unified platform. If you are a designer, to be honest, it doesn't really matter much, because even though if you work in BIM 360, design is the only module that in both platform are bring you on. So design basically saying that you will, with design, you'll be able to collaborate with another consultant. That's the module that you need to work in a collaborative work environment in Revit. So either both of them are bring you on, so it doesn't really matter. But the key thing, if you are an owner, you are the person who's going to set up that project for all the discipline in the project, better to do it in the Unified platform. Okay, and now if we're talking about a bit about permissions, also so really important, no? As part of your CDE, it should and it needs to have a system when you can tell any member which folder can access and cannot. So in BIM 360, using BIM Collaborate Pro, we will be able to use it in two different ways. So if we back to our live demo, one of them, it will be if we are in design collaboration module. So now I'm design collaboration. Here, you will be able to set up all your teams. So here, I just have set up a couple of them. It's just, and then I can tell which folder is gonna be using as a work in progress for that team. So in this case, architect. If I go to here, I can see that it's using this path, which is work in progress architects, which is basically what I was showing you before. So that will be. So by using BIM 360, also we can set up our shared folder. So in this case, when we set up our teams in BIM 360, we can let, if I come back here, we can let the platform know where our shared folder is going to be located. So in this case, we have it tell it that it will be our number 2 share. And that's something really important, because you will use your shared folder for your design collaboration and model coordination modules. And this is something that you won't be able to change in future stages. So you need to make sure to choose the right folder for that. Now, if we jump into our next key feature, will be audit. Yeah, again, our CDE it needs to allow us to query what is happening with our files within our data environment. We need to see who has moved a file, who has deleted, who has been add something, change the revision, etc. And again, with the Unified platform, we will be able to do so. I go back into my live demo, and for example, just to give you a quick sneak peek of that, and on my work in progress, architect folder, and here I got architectural model, Revit model. I can see that also contains some naming convention. We will talk just in a second. Follow ISO 19650, but I also can see the version, which is version 3. And more important, what I want to show you regarding audit is these 3 dots at the end on the right side. You could also select it here and click this one here, kind of the same thing. And we can see here, we can go and see view file activities. By that, we'll be able to see everything that happened to that file. So since this file was updated and uploaded into our CDE, we'll be able to see all the changes that happen. Not even that. If we want to be a bit more picky about it, we can filter that, and maybe I want to check if my colleague Daniel has done something with this file. So, for example, has done something regarding if he moved this file or something. He told me he didn't do it, so let's see if that's true. I click apply. There you go. It's clear of any punishment, and he will be fine. So yeah, as you can see, you as an admin member in this case, acting as an admin member, not even that, but if you are one of the admin of this hub, you will be able to query the folders, query what happened, not only inside the formation, but also, as I just showed you, what's happened with documentation regarding moving, adding, uploading, etc. So now, if we talk about a bit our next topic, which is container unique ID and version control. As I told you before, we're based here in the UK for this webinar, and we follow ISO 19650 series. You might be familiar with this naming convention for our files. So just going to show you how that works in terms of how we can set up that. To give you a tip here, when we are in our folder and we already got a tick in our folders, as you can see, each folder has like a gray tick there. That's basically it's telling you that some type of naming convention has been applied into those folders. So that means that every time you upload a file into those folders, it will require to follow whichever naming convention has been set up. In order to see which naming convention has been set up, inside our file, we go to settings here on the right side, and we can check naming standards. Here, we can see that's been default, by default, BIM 360 give you ISO 19650 because it's not only applied in the UK, but also in several countries. So it's one of the standards that is being followed worldwide regarding BIM. So BIM 360 we already give you the one. You also will be able to apply your own, but we're talking about specifically about ISO 19650 today. And here we can tell the name of our parameters for our naming in this case, right? We can also obviously customize it, make sure that, for example, originator, we can add all the originators in our project, the same for the discipline, etc. Here, and we can, that tick that I showed you before, that's basically is saying which folder, no, sorry, this one, which folders we want the naming convention to be applied on. So at the moment, I have selected for all our folders. So again, any file uploading into one of these 4 folders, it will need to have the ISO 19650 convention. If not, what will happen? You will get a window, and you will need to amend that based on the standard. And just to show you that, let's do a quick demo. So again, I'm gonna go into my information manager folder here. As you can see, I got a Word document, which is in this case is a window information plan. Here you can see that you already have all the parameters populated, and that is being taken automatically from the name, because when I upload this document into our CDE, it will detect all the parameters within the file name in this case. As you can see, just to give you an example, because we're going to do a change, talking about the status and the revision, it's currently at 0, and the revision is P01.02. We're going to convert that into P0201. So how we do that is really simple. From my desktop, I'm just going to drop the new version of the BIM execution plan. I'm going to populate it here. And as you can see, it's detecting, again, all the parameters from the file. So I'm happy with those. Everything is all right. And now I adjust the status. So again, it will be 0 again. What's going to change now is P02.01. And the classification, we are following Uniclass from the MBS. And if you know the code, you can simply type BIM execution plan. Oops, sorry. And you will get it there. So you know it's that one. And we click upload. It will take just a couple of seconds. In this case, it's a small file. And we simply click done. So now, we close that. We got our new BIM execution plan in our work in progress area for our information manager container. As I told you before, now if I see, it's showing the new status code for that file. If you want to check again regarding auditing the model, here we can see the version history. So as you can see, if I can actually show you just gonna come back to my slide and show you the next, just to show you what I was planning to talk about just now. So as part of our version control, we can check which model has been allowed and the whole version of that file, right? So it's no more than that. So if we come back here, just to do it again, under version, you can click the icon. At the moment it's version 3. But you can see the previous one. So that's just the one that just update today. As you can see, I upload another one this morning at 11:45. I was another one uploaded on 31st of March, 12 o'clock. And again, you have the ability to check what happened with your model of your document in this case, and not even that, you have two options here. You will be able to copy it, or you will be able to download it, or even more, if for some reason you want to go backwards, you will be able to make a previous version the current one. That won't delete the current one. That will just create a new version of this one and put it on top. Okay, so for our next slide, we're talking about a bit regarding our file cabinets, how we can move a file from work in progress to share, which will be our next step. We just did regarding the first graphic that we see. Let's go from work in progress to share, then from share to from work in progress to share, then from share to publish, and then from publish it could go to archive or back to share, right? But we already explained how we populate documents on work in progress. Now we're gonna show you how to show documents on share folder. In this case, we're gonna take the advantage of using design collaboration model. So the good thing by using this system is we can really streamline this process, because if you work in a project that is using BIM, you will know that this type of workflow will happen on the weekly basis, right? So you will be able to share your models with other consultants. They usually put a day, so let's say on Friday afternoon, and typically, if you need to do it in a manual way, that could be a bit tedious, but by using design collaboration, we can streamline this process. In this case, BIM 360 or Autodesk in this case give us 3 ways to share that that information with our discipline. Top one is high trust environment, live linking, which is not something I really recommend. That basically is saying that you will need to consume that information from another discipline directly from that discipline work in progress folder, which in my opinion is not something I will recommend. As you can imagine, if you link from a work in progress folder from another consultant, that model will get updated probably on the hour basis, and you probably don't want to see those changes. You want to see those changes when it reach certain level of development, right? So that's why I will also recommend more the next 2 options, which is medium trust environment or low trust environment. One of them will be linking from the share area, and the other one will be from consume. Again, we really talk about these topics on the previous webinar, so I highly encourage you to have a look into those if you are not familiar with this terminology. And in order to to use in the system, because we're going to use the bottom one, consuming, we need to create a package, and that's how we're going to use design collaboration for that. So if we go into the live demo, here we are in the design collaboration module. We are in home. As you can see, we got what we call a timeline, no, for our project. That will give you a good idea how many modules has been shared from each consultant, etc. In this case, what I'm going to share with other project member is the BIM execution plan that I just update into my work in progress. So what we're gonna do is take the file from our work in progress into our share area. So how we're gonna do that? We can create a new package. I just want to check something, see what I did the previous. I just put the date. Okay. I'm gonna create a new one. And simply here, we just need to do a couple of things for that will be based on whatever naming convention you are using in your project. But in this case, I'm gonna put type M, and I'm just gonna put today's date. And then simply what I'm going to do is add the document. Because in this case, it's a BIM execution plan. You could do the same with models, markups, etc. I will need to add a model. So just gonna click here, documents, then add documents. And simply I will need to go and select. That's basically looking at my work in progress area. So I add that into my package, save it, and share it. Put that. Click share. And in that way, we are sharing that information. So as you can see now, we got something in our timeline that is showing that we have shared the information. How we can check if that works? Well, we simply go to our file, we go back into docs here. And if we go into our share area, and we go into information manager, we can see there that our file has been updated as part of our workflow. So here, what I could do, instead of change, we will need to change the status, because as part of the ISO 19650, that's not the revision that we need to use. So in order to do that, I'm gonna jump into I have another account with my colleague called Microdesk, my good friend Microdesk, and I'm gonna do that process myself. So as you can see here, my colleague Microdesk only have access to information manager folders. So as you can see, he doesn't have the architect folder, neither the structural or any of the other, because that's what we were talking about before, no? The permission, how people can access to which folder. So in this case, for share, information manager. And here, what we're going to talk about is how we can make a workflow to approve what we just did. So in order to do that, I will click on my model. Again, we could do it either from here, or I could also take these 3 docs, but in this case, I want to do it with this one. And what I'm going to do is submit for review. I will explain how I'm doing this process just in a second, but just to show you, I'm going to show you, I'm going to pick this workflow. So I am share to publish. I'm simply going to click that and click submit. Click send. Here we go. So that using that workflow, the person who is a reviewer of that information will receive a notification saying that it needs to be reviewed that document. If everything is okay, that document will move from share to publish. So, and And that's basically what I was explaining. And by doing that, will be the next step, no? Moving information from share to publish. So as you said, the person in this case will be me. So if I come back to my account now, which is David, and if go to the reviews, in theory, I should have a review open, which you can see here, from my colleague Microdesk, telling me there has been an approval to be done for the BIM execution plan. So in this case, I want to start my review. Start review. And then obviously what we need to do, go into the file, open it. As you can see, I open a Word document here, which no problem. Can review the document, see that everything is fine. I'm happy with that. So I'll simply go ahead and say approve and submit for review. Put even a comment. All good. Submit. Just taking a couple of time. Give it a couple of more seconds. So it should be done now. So now, in order to verify that, what we can do, go back to Docs again. Now we go into our publish area. We can see that our document has moved into our publish area. What we could do here is also change the status. So for example, let's say we are in Arriba stage 3, and instead of be a provisional revision, that will be a contractual revision. So we can say it's C01, for example. As this case, so we have seen the whole process of moving, in this case, a BIM execution plan from work in progress, then to share, and then to publish. Something I forgot to mention at the beginning is the archive folder. We are working obviously in a digital common data environment. So what we could do is every time something is being passed on a day, we could also move it into our archive folder as well. So as you can see, I have set up the archive folder with all the different disciplines, but because we are working on a digital work, a digital common data environment, as I showed you before, for example, go into this one, we got version control. So every time that we upload a data document, the previous version will also archive itself into the metadata folder. So even if you don't see it, we'll be able to make that back. So again, that will be something up to you. What I typically do for my project is use this workflow, and I will use the archive folder for main files, no, in our project, rather than moving everything into archive, because that's the thing. That's one of the main benefits. We're working in a digital CDE, so we need to take the advantage of that. So it's no need anymore to copying files on the weekly basis, which is a really tedious time consuming task. And now let me see, check the time. Good time, that's good. We're talking about a little bit of sharing information. So one of the key things of CDE is how to sharing information, right? With your discipline, with your colleagues, and your team. And this is coming back to my previous, one of my first slides, when that guy was a bit surprised all these naming conventions and why were so many files and how do you send it? It was through an email or etc. So this is one of the key, no? We want to keep everything in one source of truth, but we also will be able to send it, right? So again, our CDE, in this case BIM 360, allowed us to do that. So if you go back, for example, specifically that BIM execution plan that we just shared, there's different ways we can share this information. one of my favorite ones is, again, is to use what is called transmittals. So with transmittals, we can send message to any other discipline stakeholder in our project without the need to use external tool, software, email, etc. And that's one of the point. Not only work with information, but also send that information between our CDE. That for me is one of the key things as well. So easy as always, go with your 3 dots and simply create transmitter. And here we can add the recipients. I did that a bit quick. So we go recipients, and then we can add where we want to send it. We can do it by user, by role, by company. So maybe what I want to do is go, I want to let, I don't know, maybe I want to let all the Microdesk team, which is in this case 3 people, that this data. That's it. So I create that. Those persons will get a notification on the email address, but that information they will need to come back to the CDE to check that document. So they won't, the web won't be attached on an email address or anything like that. They only will have the notification, and then we come back to the CDE and check the BIM execution plan in this case. Again, how we can also audit that. So if we go to transmittal area here, if for some reason you send something to someone and that person told you that you didn't send it, then you have the proofs. I say, no, yeah, hey, I did it. I sent it to you that day at that hour, and that was the document, and that was the folder. Again, you keep the track of everything, one source of blade, one source of true. I think from my side, that's more or less everything. Thanks very much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye-bye.